Thank you for watching this video. You may think you don't have to pay anything for this, but that's not the case. You pay for watching this video with universal currency. What exactly this is will be explained in a moment, but first let's talk about what is considered valid money by governments. The amount of government money such as the USA dollar continues to increase. These monetary balloons are, as it were, continually inflated. This causes depreciation of this money due to inflation. Inflating each money balloon also has everything to do with negative government money, that is, debt. In fact, since this government money has been decoupled from intrinsic value such as gold, it is nothing but a social construct. This constructed money is therefore based solely on the trust in its value by its users. In fact, its value is directly dependent on this implicit trust. If confidence in such a currency declines, its value will decline just as quickly. This can even lead to hyperinflation of this fiat or fiduciary money. The term fiduciary is derived from the French word fiducie, which we can translate as trust. We can regard the monetary systems devised by humans as a game or an exercise. In reality, these monetary systems serve to prepare us for learning to work with universal currency. The word currency comes from the Latin word currere, which means to flow. While most people don't even realize this, the universal flowing value with which we pay for during our entire life is time. That is why we also talk about spending time. In principle, we decide what we spend our time on. Sometimes we experience something afterwards as a huge waste of time. We would have much rather spent that time on something else. If we think about this more deeply, our time spent is in fact an investment. That is why it is best to think in advance about the expected return on investment, abbreviated as ROI. It is therefore wise to always spend your time as consciously as possible by asking yourself in advance what exactly you want to get out of it. To this end, you ask yourself the question in everything, what is in it for me? If this is not completely clear to you, is it then worth your valuable time? So again, thank you for taking your time to continue watching this video. Unlike fiat money, universal currency is never negative and always limited. After all, there is no negative time in our lives, and we all know that sooner or later our time will run out. Furthermore, universal currency has a second dimension in addition to time, namely attention. That is why we say that we pay our attention to something. If you study this video with undivided attention, your ROI will be much higher than if you look at this nonchalantly. We can represent both dimensions as follows. Time times attention equals investment, in universal currency. The attention is basically the mental effort we add to our investment during the time spent. We can clarify this by taking sports as an example. Suppose Frank goes to the gym for an hour every day, except on Sundays, but hardly exerts himself there. He mainly exercises for fun. Chantal, on the other hand, only goes twice a week for an hour, but she makes every effort every time. Hopefully it will be clear that Chantal invests considerably more than Frank in this example, and therefore also might expect a much higher ROI, while Frank spends 3 times as much time on it. This is because the effort Chantal adds is more than 3 times that of Frank. You are probably now watching this video with more attention than in the beginning. That is why you are thanked here for the 3rd time, now not only for your time, but this time also for your attention. What will I gain from further viewing of this video? That is probably what you want to know right now. This is the answer. This video will tell you exactly how you can significantly increase the return on your life. That being said, you probably also want to know who the one is making this claim. But really, whoever made this video is just the messenger of this good news, and doesn't really matter too much, at least not to you. Yet it is understandable that you feel the need to know more about this messenger before you invest even more by continuing to watch this video carefully. In fact, you are looking for some kind of guarantee that you will not waste your valuable time. That's why here is some information about him. His name is Johan Oldenkamp, and he was born and raised in the Netherlands. Does it help you to know that he has a PhD from a renowned university, one of the best 100 on this planet? Or does it perhaps give you more confidence in the value of this video if you know that he has written dozens of books in several languages and has made many hundreds of videos, all about matters that will also be discussed in this video? He is certainly not just anybody, but ultimately the value of this video is not determined by his competencies, and only by what it brings to you. So we'll wrap up this introduction here to get to the main content of this video. We all know the difference between sleeping and being awake. When we physically fall asleep, our postural muscles relax, our brain activity changes, and our awareness of our surroundings practically ceases. Once we wake up from this sleep state, we realize that we were asleep before. When we were still sleeping, we were completely unaware of this. That is why our dreams seem so real, as we are not aware of our sleeping state. After we physically awaken, we exchange our dream consciousness for our waking consciousness. However, anyone who dares to investigate the reality of waking consciousness without bias runs the risk of discovering falsehood. Often the first discovery of something that is not right quickly leads to more, and the impartial truth seeker therefore goes from one astonishment to the next. Some even try to see how deep this metaphorical rabbit hole goes, only to be shocked to discover that this cesspool only branches and spreads further and further. All this, we can call, societal awakening. People who have become societally awakened therefore look at the news, the government money, and healthcare with completely different eyes. Just as there are people who have difficulty getting up as they then prefer to sleep a little longer, there are also quite many people who have difficulty waking up societally. They want to continue to believe in the reality as they assume it to be. Anyone who then claims something that is not consistent with their mainstream view is dismissed as a crazy conspiracy theorist. This way they can continue their societal dreaming undisturbed. They often also spend a remarkable amount of their time on mainstream news and talk shows on television or radio because they find confirmation in this from like-minded people who are also still in dreamland societally. Waking up societally is certainly no fun, because it is a very confrontational process. We then constantly say to ourselves, especially in the beginning, surely, this cannot be true. Ultimately, even the most astonishing suspicions turn out to be the hard truth. However, there is a great danger in the process of societal awakening, and that is that we are sucked into the negativity that we find in all those cesspools. Therefore, it is important to realize that societal awakening is only a prelude to something much more important and unimaginably greater, and that is spiritual awakening. Before we delve deeper into what spiritual awakening is, let's first focus on all those people who dream spiritually. In many cases, these spiritual dreamers are also societally asleep, because they want the world to consist only of positivity. Their worldview is remarkably simple: positivity is good and negativity is bad. They then extend this to, resistance is bad, and going with the flow is good. Like societal dreamers, spiritual dreamers, including all religious believers, seek confirmation only for their own views. All these dreaming people are seeingly blind and hearingly deaf, because they only see and hear as they believe it would be. How then could these dreamers be awakened? Trying to directly wake up both social and spiritual dreamers is often counterproductive. Their defense mechanism then kicks in, often causing them to turn against the one who is trying to wake them up. This video is therefore most certainly not intended to wake up viewers who are still societally or spiritually asleep. If you now feel addressed, simply stop watching this video and feel free to come back as soon as you realize that you are ready for your spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening is much more difficult than societal awakening. With societal awakening, the lies we expose lie outside ourselves, while with spiritual awakening these unmaskings take place within ourselves. We must time and again overcome the inner resistance that we experience during this process. That is precisely the reason why spiritual dreamers can never awaken on their own, because they turn away in the face of resistance. Spiritual dreamers think they know themselves, but what they call their self is in fact nothing more than a dream. The key to spiritual awakening is true self-knowledge. That is why the following Greek words were prominently inscribed upon the temple of Apollo at Delphi: know thee se afton, know thyself, in Old English. We will delve into this in more detail in part 2 of this video. The importance of true self-knowledge cannot be overestimated. It provides us with the necessary foundation to build upon our own metaphorical house, meaning our understanding of reality. Without true self-knowledge as a foundation, this is like a house built on sand. Wise people, on the other hand, build their house on a rock-solid foundation. About 24 centuries ago, Plato recorded the words of his teacher Socrates in various writings. His most famous statement, "Man, know thyself," refers of course to the inscription upon the temple of Apollo at Delphi, as mentioned in the previous part of this video. However, to the good listener, half a word is enough, as a Dutch proverb states. The good listener then knows how to complete it with the other half. In case you are a less good listener, Socrates' entire statement is shown here: "Man, know thyself, that thou may knowest the entire universe and even God." There is only one way to spiritual awakening, and this way requires true self-knowledge. We can divide this process of spiritual awakening into 5 phases, as shown below. However, before we can go to phase 1, almost everyone needs a preparation phase, which we call phase 0 here. During phase 0, we bring our self back into balance by repairing and thus undoing the damage we have suffered over the years. For example, every trauma is healed, and unhealthy thoughts and feelings are also resolved. Only people who are psychologically healthy can start acquiring self-knowledge from phase 1. Unfortunately, it happens all too often that someone has already started phase 1 while there are still, for example, 1 or even more unresolved traumas. In that case, the person must first go back to phase 0, again. The goal of phase 1 is to fully understand your own personality. This term is derived from the Latin word persona, meaning mask. Our mask consists of many typical thought and feeling patterns. At a very young age, we made this mask ourselves to hide our being behind it. This shell that masks our being, that is our personality. Ordinary people are completely identified with their own personality. They believe that their being and their personality are one and the same. In other words, ordinary people are their personalities. The goal of phase 2 is to realize that we have a personality, but that is emphatically not who we are. In phase 2 we experience more and more clearly that our personality is located around our being, and is therefore outside of our self. The personality is then increasingly experienced as a separate person, who is, however, anything but a stranger to us. This very well-known person then becomes our servant, whom we can dispose of at will, but who never internally believes to be the boss any longer. Because we have completely detached ourself from the concealing personality in phase 2, our self from phase 3 onwards consists exclusively of our being. We may also call this our nature or our character. Ordinary people think that the terms personality and character are synonymous, but that is a colossal misconception. We created our personality during our first years, even though we already had a character at the time, because that is what we were born with. The goal of phase 3 is to fully understand one's own innate character. We can refer to our character as our natural self. On the day of our physical birth this natural self was born, and on the day of our physical death this natural self will die. That's just how nature works, because everything that has a beginning also has an end. Religious people believe that they could survive physical death, but in reality they actually enter a dream state after their death. They therefore fool themselves not only during their lives, but also afterwards. The goal of phase 4 is to realize that we have a character, but that this is emphatically not who we are. This realization can only grow by consciously going against our own nature. Only through such conscious suffering, will slowly but surely arise an awareness of ourself as something that already existed before we were born in our current physical body. This is also called our higher self, which is a concept that spiritual dreamers are happy to use, or actually, abuse. Only humans from phase 4 onwards can learn, little by little, to break away from their lower self, to experience that their real self is of a much higher order. Once stage 4 is completed, our lower self dies. This means that we no longer identify with the nature or character of the physical body that is currently available to us during our earthly existence. Only after this conscious death of our lower self is inner resurrection possible. From this spiritual rebirth we have reached phase 5. We are then fully aware of ourself as that which existed before our current physical casing was born. As soon as this physical body as a whole stops living, and therefore all brain activity and blood circulation ceases, the consciousness of our higher self continues to exist. Compared to the physical body, the higher self is less mortal. Many people believe that the soul as the receiving part of the higher self would be immortal, but in reality we can better refer to this as less mortal. By developing our self further and further, we can then increase the degree of our immortality accordingly. As with the designation of the higher self, spiritual dreamers also believe they know what the soul and even what the spirit would be. In reality, everything they think they know about this is nothing but fantasy. And to make matters worse, common language also confuses the soul with feeling and the spirit with thinking. As a result, ordinary people live in the land of confusion. Fortunately, a flawless approach has been developed with which the phases just discussed can be systematically completed. This all-encompassing paradigm is holy science. Anyone who is socially awakened has also discovered that what ordinary people refer to as science has nothing at all to do with impartial truth-finding. This university science is nothing more than a misleading belief system that clings desperately on to unscientific dogmas. That is why we refer to this academic belief system here as scientism. This belief system has absolutely nothing to do with sound science. With scientism everything revolves around fiat money, and research results are in fact bought by the financiers. We can therefore better call this mental prostitution. Anyone who has subsequently awakened spiritually knows that what ordinary people refer to as spirituality is not at all about the systematic peeling away of the self. Popular spirituality is all about clinging to one's perceived self-image by strengthening desired aspects of it at will. We can therefore better refer to this belief system as fantasism, because at its core it is nothing more than pure fantasy. This belief system has absolutely nothing to do with solid spirituality. In reality, sound science and solid spirituality are two sides of the same coin. These two sides cannot be separated at all, something that nevertheless did happen with the emergence of scientism and fantasism. Scientism is science without spirituality. It is best characterized as a headless chicken. It fills the lacking top with belief in coincidence, making it profane and driftless. Fantasism is spirituality without science. It is best characterized as a pie in the sky. It fills the lacking foundation with wishful thinking, making it ungrounded and arbitrary. Holy science is the wholesome reunification of sound science and solid spirituality. We see this reunion very clearly in the 6 core disciplines of holy science. From bottom to top, these 6 core disciplines form a rock-solid hierarchy: physics, chemistry, biology, psychology, philosophy, and theology. The upward sequence from physics at the bottom is the scientific sequence, while the downward sequence from theology at the top is the spiritual sequence. In other words, science researches bottom-up and spirituality top-down. That is why within holy science, both perspectives always merge halfway. Only when you fully see through the deception of both scientism and fantasism will you be ready for holy science. There is no point in starting with studying holy science before you are really ready, because then there will be a good chance that you will get stuck sooner or later. If you are ready for holy science, you can follow the Holy Science Education program. In preparation for this, it is best to start by studying the Holy Science video course consisting of 33 video presentations, which will help you become even more awake, both societally and spiritually. The Holy Science Education program consists of 7 levels. 1. Foundation. 2. Self-knowledge. 3. Advanced courses. 4. History. 5. Initiation. 6. Devotion. 7. Liberation. Anyone can order Level 1, but it is recommended that you first complete the video course in preparation for this. Level 1 ends with a short multiple-choice test. After passing this test you can order Level 2. At Level 2, you will get to know yourself better through 7 structured self-knowledge methods, which are explained both via a video presentation and an ebook. In addition, workshops are held regularly in which each of these 7 self-knowledge methods is applied to each participant. Level 2 ends with a handing in your self-knowledge report, in which the obtained self-examination results are presented and briefly explained. After this self-knowledge report has been approved, Level 3 can be ordered. In this way you can continue to go to the next education level. By Level 7 at the latest, every holy science student experiences what spiritual awakening exactly means. If you feel it is your calling to improve the world, especially now that things seem to be getting worse and worse, then start with yourself and contact us straight away. To do so, as well as to get more information on the Holy Science Education Program, visit holyscience.org.